In the shadows of modern society, while we lock our doors and trust that serial killers are a thing of the past, there are still monsters walking among us. Killers who have never been caught, never been named, and never stopped. These aren't cold cases buried in dusty files. These are active dangers. Predators who could be anyone. A neighbor, a coworker, someone in line at the grocery store. And the most chilling part? They're still out there. Let's begin with the Long Island serial killer, a shadowy figure who haunted the beaches of Gilgo, New York. 4 years, sex workers disappeared after meeting clients online, their cases barely raising media attention, until December 2010, when police searching for missing escort Shannon Gilbert discovered human remains along Ocean Parkway. What began as 1 body turned into 4, then 10. All the victims were women involved in the sex trade, many wrapped in burlap, dumped near the shore. The meticulous method pointed to a single killer, calculated, efficient, and local. Some theorized he had law enforcement training, or perhaps even was a cop. Despite massive investigations and a task force, no suspect was charged for over a decade. In 2023, a man named Rex Hoyerman was arrested in connection with some of the killings. But police admit he may not be responsible for all of them. Could the real Long Island serial killer still be out there? Or is there more than one? Now move across the country to Chicago, Illinois, where a disturbing pattern has been unfolding in plain sight for years. Since 2001, more than 50 women, most of them black, have been found strangled and discarded in alleys, vacant lots, and abandoned buildings. Many of the victims were sex workers or struggled with addiction, their deaths often written off as isolated cases. But a deeper look reveals chilling similarities: ligature marks, the use of dumpsters, and repeated disposal zones. Community activists began sounding the alarm about a potential serial killer, while police remained cautious, refusing to publicly link the cases. In 2019, the Murder Accountability Project, a nonprofit that tracks unsolved homicides, flagged the deaths as likely connected. They pointed out how many of the murders followed a predictable pattern, and how the killer or killers may still be striking. To this day, no arrests, no prime suspect, just a growing body count and a city that refuses to give the nightmare a name. Then there's the Jefferson Davis 8, sometimes referred to as the Jennings 8, from the small town of Jennings, Louisiana. Between 2005 and 2009, the bodies of 8 women were found dumped in canals, ditches, and back roads. Most were connected by drug use, prostitution, or knew each other personally. Some were even witnesses in the previous murders, then turned up dead themselves. Local law enforcement came under fire for botched evidence, destroyed files, and serious allegations of corruption. Investigators began suspecting that the killer might not be a lone predator, but possibly multiple people or even someone connected to law enforcement. Families of the victims claim police never took the case seriously because of the women's lifestyles. And while the FBI briefly stepped in, the case fizzled out. It's now been over a decade, and the town of Jennings still carries the weight of a silent killer, or killers, lurking somewhere in plain sight, hidden behind a curtain of power and silence. Lastly, we visit Canada's Highway of Tears, a desolate stretch of Highway 16 that cuts through British Columbia. Since the 1970s, dozens of Indigenous women and girls have disappeared or been found murdered along this 725-kilometer road. Many were last seen hitchhiking between small, isolated towns. For years, their cases were ignored or mishandled, often brushed off due to racial bias. While one killer, Cody Leijbokoff, was eventually caught and convicted in 2014, investigators agree he wasn't the only one responsible. Multiple killers are suspected of operating along this road, and Indigenous communities continue to sound the alarm. Despite government inquiries and national outrage, many families still wait for answers. To this day, some disappearances remain open cases with no suspects, no arrests, and no closure. And the Highway of Tears continues to be a place where predators hunt undetected. What links all these stories is more than just death, it's silence. The forgotten victims, the ignored warnings, the killers who adapt and vanish into the crowd. These aren't urban legends or horror fiction. These are real, unsolved serial killer cases where justice hasn't been served. And every day that passes, there's a chilling truth we have to face. Somewhere right now, one of them may be watching, waiting, and planning to strike again. There's a dry, desolate stretch of land just outside Albuquerque, New Mexico, a place few paid attention to until 2009, when a woman walking her dog made a discovery that would change everything. As her dog sniffed through the dusty terrain of the West Mesa, it unearthed something horrifying: a human bone half buried in the sand. At first, police weren't sure what they were dealing with, but as they continued to dig, the grim truth began to emerge. One bone led to another and another and another. Soon, law enforcement realized they had stumbled upon a mass grave. Over the course of the investigation, the remains of 11 young women and one unborn child were discovered, bodies buried in shallow, makeshift graves in a wide, open desert that had hidden its secrets for years. The victims all shared eerie similarities. They were women of color, mostly in their teens or early 20s, many of them had histories of drug use, and several were known to be sex workers. All had vanished between 2003 and 2005, but due to their backgrounds, their disappearances were never widely publicized or treated with urgency. In most cases, they were quietly marked as missing and slowly forgotten, until that day in 2009 brought them all back to light in the worst possible way. The case sent shockwaves through the city. The killer, whoever they were, had buried the bodies so carefully, so deliberately, that it was clear this was not the work of a novice. Police believed they were dealing with a serial killer, possibly someone who had been targeting vulnerable women over the span of several years. The media quickly dubbed him the West Mesa Bone Collector, and a dedicated task force was formed to find whoever was behind it. But leads were scarce and clues were few. Then attention turned to a man named Lorenzo Montoya. He lived only a few miles from where the bodies were found, and he had a long history of violence against women, especially sex workers. He had been arrested multiple times, and on several occasions he was found with suspicious items: duct tape, rope, and women's clothing. In 2006 he invited a young woman to his trailer. According to reports, he strangled her. Her boyfriend, who was waiting outside, broke in and shot Montoya dead. After that, the disappearances seemed to stop. Many speculated that Montoya had been the killer all along. But without hard evidence, police could never definitively connect him to the West Mesa graves. No DNA. No eyewitnesses. No confessions. Others weren't convinced it was just one person. Some investigators and locals believe that the murders may have been the work of a group, a trafficking ring or organized operation that exploited vulnerable women and disposed of them without detection. It's a theory supported by another chilling discovery. Satellite imagery from as far back as 2004 appeared to show disturbed soil in the exact locations where the bodies were later found. That means the killer, or killers, had likely returned to the same site more than once, carefully managing the burial ground, using the desert as a dumping site over time. And disturbingly, much of that land has never been fully searched. There could be more graves, more victims, more stories that never had a chance to be told. Families of other missing women in the area have begged investigators to reopen searches, fearing their loved ones might be among the forgotten. For the families of the known victims, girls like Cinnamon Elks, Victoria Chavez, and Monica Candelaria, there is still no closure. Their daughters, sisters, and friends were lost to a predator who remains unidentified. For over a decade, the case has remained officially unsolved, despite hundreds of interviews, tips, and theories. And as time goes on, the trail grows colder. Whoever the West Mesa Bone Collector is, they have eluded justice for over 15 years. It's possible they are dead. It's possible they moved on and continued killing elsewhere. But it's also possible, perhaps even likely, that they're still alive. Still walking the streets of Albuquerque. Still living a quiet life. Still watching. The most disturbing thing about this case isn't just the scale of what happened. It's the silence that followed. The fact that so many of these women disappeared without public outcry, the way their cases were handled with minimal urgency, and the way the killer was able to operate in plain sight for years without anyone noticing. Even now, the desert holds its secrets. And if the killer is still out there, they may still feel safe, because no one has come close to catching them.